Hello, everybody. It is 2024. Welcome back to the TMOF Wrestling Podcast. It's a brand new year, and it's been a minute.
We're thinking about 20 seconds, but okay.
It's been a while since the last one. I actually know exactly what we're talking about. My name is Russ. For any of our new listeners, any returning listeners, I am Russ, and my co-host today, he is
Predictions King!
the Predictions King of 2024 and 2023 and 2022. No, actually, no, not of 2024. We haven't done 24 yet.
Yeah, but it will be.
Yeah, but then if my prediction's always wrong, then that's wrong.
True. But you
the jinx.
You're always wrong, so you might as well be right for once.
It's well, there is that. Yeah, it's very generous. But welcome everybody to the show. It certainly has been a while. The last episode we'd uploaded, I was joined by Ted, the Hillbilly Heel of the Heel Truth Wrestling Podcast. Brilliant bloke. We had a really, really good chat about the fans, really, kind of the current culture of wrestling fans. Yeah. And that was really the last episode of 2023. Everything else on YouTube was, we went to Impact Wrestling in Coventry. That was a good time.
It was.
We went to one of the days there. Obviously, Impact now is going to be turned into TNA.
Yep. Their first review as TNA will be next week. I don't know if we'll do predictions for that.
I don't know. We'll see how it pans out, I guess. But they're definitely building a lot of traction at the moment, which is nice to see.
I don't know if you've seen this, but just recently they've changed the belts to be more TNA instead of Impact Wrestling. I think it's mostly the same designs, but just got the TNA name on them. And
that's pretty good. Yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time at Impact Wrestling. It was at the HMV Empire in Coventry. Venue, I don't think I'd want to see it there again.
No.
It was very... it was just a bit small. The layout wasn't great, I don't think. Still had a great time, don't get me wrong. It was a really enjoyable show. Nice to get out and see some wrestling, but it was just the venue for me was a bit odd.
Very odd. But I'd like to know what music shows like there.
It was, but it's more set up for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So to clarify on that, and obviously give that a bit more detail, other than just it was a bit odd, it's because it is very much set up as, like it'll be great to be in there, I guess, for a gig. But it's a bit weird when you've got like the ring is kind of. You've just got, there's only like a couple of different rows you can have at the side of it, and everything else is at the back. That's not like odd. That alone isn't odd. You'll find that with most venues, but it's just because there was, maybe it was more, but to me it felt like there was like 3 rows at the side, and then it was like 20 to 30 rows all going to the back, and then the merch was really, there really wasn't much merch, in all honesty.
No, it felt like one shirt per wrestler on the card.
It wasn't even that, I don't think. Moose had one. Some of the guys that weren't there had merch. There was Sammy Callahan.
Well, he's not there anymore.
Wasn't there anymore, but was he there at the time? I'm sure it was his shirt.
Might have been. I don't see why they wouldn't have.
But I would have expected a actual TNA logo shirt, personally. But, I know there wasn't TNA at that time, but I would have just expected that to be the case. A week or two
before that show, they were saying it was going to be called TNA for 2024, so...
Yeah,
they probably couldn't have done.
No, but regardless, it was a good time. And of course, since then we've had Christmas, we've had New Year's. There's been a lot going on in the world of wrestling. CM Punk has returned to WWE. Edge has gone to AEW. There's Adam Copeland. It's been something of a roller coaster, and we are now pretty much on the road to WrestleMania. I suppose we officially are on that road once we hit the Royal Rumble, which is on the 27th, I believe, this month. So yeah, that's shaping up to be really interesting because of course, the return of the great one, the People's Champion, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I think I said Jinder Mahal. Okay,
Jinder Mahal as well. Hey, let's talk about it. What we're gonna go through a few different things on the show today because it has been a while. We're really just going to talk a bit of shit I think
we do that anyway, so I don't know what's new.
Of course, yeah, but we might as well just promote that out there now. Yeah, we're going to talk about Rock's return, how that potentially is going to affect the landscape going forwards. We're going to talk about AEW. We've had some conversations recently on where AEW is at the minute. They've had a bit of a turbulent year. 2023 it's been a weird one.
Yeah,
put on some really good shows, but just they're well and truly out of that AEW can do no wrong zone now. You know,
it's 5 years old now.
It's well, yeah. Which it was never going to be. You know, it's always going to have issues, but we'll come to it, I suppose. But yeah, it's issues that take over from the product, and that's what I don't really like personally. But yeah, we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about, in particular, that media scrum after World's End. And, of course...
When you say media scrum in AEW, you just got to narrow it down to the show first before you...
I said the media scrum at World's End, Ash. There's nothing more I could have done on that, but I am open to your suggestions.
All right. Go on then.
I've already said it. So yeah, we got that. But if, Ash, to begin with, I want to talk. I want to get your thoughts. Really, really, really big news. Kevin Dunn is done with WWE.
Yep.
40 years he was at the company for. 40 years. So Kevin Dunn was an executive in WWE. Now, as a TV producer, he was the head guy. Everything that you see all the way through, like how WWE is produced, how it's presented to you on TV, it's down to Kevin Dunn. Yeah. And it's been that way for 40 years. He was there before the very first WrestleMania. So, I mean, he really has been there through all of the Vince McMahon era. And even, was it his brother, his dad? It must have been his dad, I'd imagine. Another family member worked for Vince McMahon Sr. Well, I don't know what you said because you cut out. Now I can't hear you at all. You have completely gone. So you have audio issues. That's good. We'll let you fix that. And in the meantime, I guess I'll carry on. So, but yeah, Kevin Dunn has effectively, as of the 1st of January, is no longer with the company. Ash, if you just keep talking, when you eventually come back in and I hear you, I'll let you know.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, there you go. You're back. That wasn't too bad.
Right, is it working again?
You're back. Well done.
Right.
So yeah, it was January 1st with a week's notice.
Apparently, that saved the archives from a file or something like that. So that's how he was hard for so long. That's what I think the story is. 100% on that one.
Yeah, the story. So I think it's his dad. Yeah, but was working for Vince McMahon Sr. And was transporting equipment or something in a car. The car caught fire.
That's it.
Was still able to get everything through, but because of the danger and everything, but him still sort of following through with the job. Dunn family was essentially told you'll have a job for life. So quite literally, really, Kevin Dunn, 40 years, and that doesn't happen really. That very rarely happens in any form of employment these days, as it is, but least of all in entertainment.
Yeah,
Kevin Dunn was very much a Vince McMahon guy.
Yeah, which made it weird that he didn't go with Vince at the time, because felt like everyone
isn't that directly what's happened?
Social events.
Well, that's directly what's happened. That's directly what's happened. When Vince went the first time, he wasn't really gone, was he? And that became very evident once we started the year last year. So I think back then, that's why we've still seen him. It's only very recently that Vince has been ousted from his position via TKO. And I think that's what's then, literally. So I think that's what's sort of set everything in motion, isn't it? The new regime whatever turmoil has been going on backstage in WWE has caused Kevin Dunn to leave. I guess because Vince is gone.
Well, I think he's come out saying that it's because he was a Vince guy and they didn't really want him after Vince had gone. So
was it that they didn't want him, or was it he didn't want to be there?
Probably a bit of both, to be honest.
It could very well be. I suppose 40 years within the industry, it would be interesting to have somebody new, have that different take on things. Also, though, it is worth pointing out Kevin Dunn as an executive there. That's an interesting role that he played, because although he's a TV producer, you would imagine, any other kind of field, the TV producer is going to solely focus on that area of the business, but not Kevin Dunn.
No.
He had a big say in what happened with talent, right down to if he didn't necessarily like somebody, he could feed that to Vince, and his word was valued by Vince McMahon. I think that's where the power really comes from. He would have made a lot of money in that position for so long. I think leaving's not really going to bother him.
Probably not. I think he's got a lot of money now.
Yeah, financially speaking, I'm sure he's going to do just fine. But yeah, the power that he had there is going to be a really interesting dynamic shift, because I can't imagine that whoever then now is going to be replacing Kevin Dunn, which I don't know who it is yet. I don't know if that's been announced.
I don't think it's been announced, but people are theorizing it's Jimmy Borash, because he's still there.
Okay.
For a long time.
Well, if it is him, I can't imagine that they'll have the same amount of power. Power might not be the right word, but the same amount of influence, at least, as Kevin Dunn.
No.
So, yeah, really big change again to start the year off. We started 2023 with Vince McMahon's return of the hostile takeover.
Yeah.
And we're quite literally starting this year with Kevin Dunn gone.
So who's next? Who's next year opening with? Tony Khan?
Nick Khan? I think if it's Battle of the Khans, I think that's a tough one to say, really. That's a really tough one to say, and I don't want to jinx anything. If Tony Khan left AEW, if Tony Khan left AEW right now, AEW probably would cease, because that's the big financial backer.
Well, it's his dad, really.
Yeah, but that's where the money's coming from, isn't it? So if Tony's not there, then what happens?
Well, what was it? How much they reportedly lose? Was it like 30 million or something like that last year?
And is that based on television, or was that just as a whole?
I think that's just a financial year. Which, let's be honest, for them losing that amount is like losing a fiver for everyone else.
I mean, yeah, it's not going to be end of the world for them, but at some point, it's different in many respects, but the same in others. You don't want a situation where it's similar to, we were just talking about TNA, but where it's similar to Dixie Carter. For those who aren't aware, Dixie Carter stepped in to take over TNA Impact Wrestling back in, I want to say it was 2010, or was it a bit sooner than that?
I thought it was like within the first year or two.
Was it really early?
Yeah, because
I'm probably thinking more of her on-screen presence then. Have a look. Probably. But Dixie Carter had essentially come in with all of her family's money to keep TNA Impact Wrestling afloat. They funded it as long as they really possibly could, but the company just wasn't growing. If anything, it was losing talent. We got to the end. I think once you started seeing guys like AJ Styles leave, Samoa Joe leaving, all that kind of, I guess we call them homegrown talent.
Mm-hmm.
But the staples of TNA wrestling, once they started to leave, it was done. TNA as we knew it, or Impact Wrestling as we knew it, was over, and the family finally just pulled the plug on the finances and just said, "Look, you can't have the money anymore." That's essentially what happened.
Right.
And it's kind of different, but the same thing technically could happen. I mean, if it's his dad's money, Sadiq Khan, and he decides he's going to pull the plug, what happens then?
True.
No, I just want to clarify. I don't think they're in any danger of that happening anytime soon.
Definitely not.
Like, genuinely, they're not. AEW, for all of the chatter that's going on at the moment, and I will say, to echo the last episode with Ted, I'm still very much very inactive on social media. I'm still seeing stuff, but like, so I know what sort of people I get a feel for how people are online at the minute, but you know, it's a much more peaceful life to not be on it. But the chatter is very much now, oh yeah, AEW's dead. It's dead. It's done. It's over.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, but
it's not.
It's not.
It is.
Like I said it to you before. Remember when All In 2021 happened and everyone was All Out in it? Sorry, not when
All
it was
Out.
All Out, when everyone's like, "Oh, WWE's dead," because they were releasing everybody and AEW were gaining everyone. And funny enough, everyone stopped saying that until when Vince got ousted and Triple H got in power. And now it's just stupid things are happening, like the CM Punk situation at All In and All Out. It's like
literally a year apart, pretty much.
Yeah, too much negativity. Like I've had a look at Dixie Carter's situation with TNA. It sounds like she joined as a backer and all that stuff within the first couple of months. So like 2002.
But she would have assumed a lot more power once Jeff Jarrett would have sold his shares, I'm imagining.
It said that in October 2002, Panda Energy, which her family was the owner of, had 71%. And then, but now she was the president in 2003. So it's just like but because her first regular appearance was like 2009, 2010. Yeah, everyone seems to forget that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, becoming more of an on-screen personality. If we're going to compare the two, I will say I prefer Dixie as an on-screen personality than Tony.
Is it because she's related to Deck?
I think, if we go into it, because it's been covered a lot. I get it. I just want to put my thought on it because, like, this is really, it bugged me. I'll be honest. It really bugged me. I think PR had to step in afterwards, but everybody who's anybody knows the story now. So to summarize really quickly for anyone who doesn't, the Christmas period for AEW was a weird one. Jericho sent out some tweets or X's or whatever you call them now, over Christmas. I think early hours of Christmas morning, and it started out really as. Long story short, just saying that he wasn't. I think he was responding to somebody saying that I've never signed an NDA, and this was in relation to AEW Brawl Out, which Ash just mentioned, that happened in 2021, 22 even. That he never signed an NDA, and he was basically saying, I was there, I saw everything that happened, and then kind of went a little bit kind of aggressive, insulting Ace Steel's wife and other things. Obviously, that sparked a lot of different reactions to say, well, how could you have been there? It's been stated that you was in the corridor when all this was taking place and you wasn't in the room. Jericho saying he was in the room. And then I think it was the lawyer. What's his name? Is it Stephen P. New? I think it's Stephen P. New, who's kind of involved in this whole thing. And he sent one back over to Jericho just saying, well, I think you need to check your employee handbook because, you know, NDA or not, you still shouldn't be speaking about anything. And Jericho saying, I do basically what I want. That's really paraphrasing. That's not exactly what he said. But the whole thing just seemed like really strange. Like Jericho putting himself in a situation that it seems quite evident that he wasn't there. And the main reason for that is if he was there, if you remember back to Brawl Out, anyone that was involved at all, even innocent parties just trying to pull them apart, were all suspended. Yeah. Christopher Daniels being one of them, you know, and others. So anybody that was physically and even remotely close to that situation and within that room was all suspended. So if that's the case, that raises the question, why wasn't Jericho?
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
It sounds a bit Hulk Hogan-y to me. I'm just saying it's a proper Hoganism where we're kind of stretching the truth, I think a little bit there. But it was more bizarre that it was it was early hours of the morning on Christmas Day, is what was strange. But that kind of was the whole thing. And then very, very shortly after this, it started to surface that Kylie Rae, Smiley Kylie, people may remember she had a really short stint at the very, very beginning of AEW's run back in 2019, I guess it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Wasn't there for very long. We just saw the thing to say, I think sometime in 2020, that she'd parted ways with the company, and that was that. That was literally it. But it came to light that apparently there has been a bit more to that story, Ash. I'm guessing you've seen the news.
Yeah, I saw it. And this hurts me a bit because Jericho is my favorite wrestler, and there's been a lot of people I've enjoyed over the last 5 years or so, and then all these
stuff comes out about,
like,
and
it's like I don't want to like anyone anymore.
So, for those who aren't aware, maybe of the accusations, what's gone down?
Well, was it like Jericho was talking to her backstage, and like he said something to her that might come off as sexual and advances?
Sexual harassment.
Yeah.
It was some sort of sexual... What I'd read was that, from her accounting of events, was that she was told that Jericho wanted to see her in the locker room, and then when she went there, it was just him, and there was no one else there, which she thought was strange. And then apparently the whole thing, I can't remember exactly what's been written or what was said, but the idea is that he made a pass at her, or, you know, overall was just inappropriate. So it boils down to sexual harassment. And look, you know, while we're on the subject of that, if it's true, it's awful. Something needs to be done about it. It needs to be investigated properly. But we can't. But at the same time, you can't just jump on something just because someone's put a post out about it on the internet. Like, that might sound super harsh, but you just can't. You know, you can damage people's reputations so badly, just by putting out just something that has, you know, if it wasn't true. I'm not saying it's not true. We don't know. They need to do a proper investigation on it. But the idea is that you know, we have seen it before where people just put out these statements that something's happened. People immediately take that person's side, and, you know, not to start a bit of a gender war, but, you know, 9 times out of 10, a woman's going to be believed very quickly. And that's not to say you shouldn't believe all women, but you shouldn't believe all women, really. Like, that's everybody has the capability of lying, and I think to turn around to say we should believe all women is really dangerous. You know, with that being said, if that is the case, it's really, really, really a bad look for Jericho, because it follows on, obviously it's a bad thing as it is, but it follows on immediately after his kind of meltdown almost at Christmas. And if that really is the case, like you said, someone who's never really been, not to my knowledge, has ever been caught up in anything like that.
Well, he's had history with bad happenings, like that altercation with a fan, and it sounded like he punched a woman, but he didn't.
Yeah,
then there was that moment where he did actually...
with fighting, but not with. I to my knowledge, I don't know anything about Jericho in sort of sexual harassments or anything in that regard. I've never heard anything like that.
Happened, yeah.
But that's not to say it hasn't happened. If it has happened, then absolute swift justice needs to be taken. Doesn't matter how high up he may have. Well, I say may have been, because let's face it, he's not as big a deal in AEW as he once was. He's not
really.
He's not. But, you know, if that is the case, then yeah, it's a really serious matter. But the fact that it's a serious matter does bring us to the AEW World's End. There you go, Ash. Media scrum. Which has become the laughing stock, and quite honestly, it's bugged me. It has bugged me, because again, if we're going to go on the basis whether or not the accusation is true or not, there's not enough proof at the moment. But whether it's true or not, it's been called into question that something was allowed to happen like that could have been worse within Tony's company. Tony's asked the question, and he has asked it multiple times, but the very first time that he's asked the question, he is sat with current TBS champion Julia Hart, who I believe is about 20 years old, right?
About that. She's very young.
Yeah, she's young, and that's not to be patronising, but she's a younger woman. He sat with Julia, and the guest before her was Tony Storm, Timeless Tony, one of my absolute favourites right now in the business. Tony's come out, she's doing a shtick, and she's put the hat and glasses on Tony. I think she put both on, didn't she? And he's wearing these kind of like glasses and that hat, and he kind of looks he looks like something out of one of those B movies that's going to be, really offensive, and trying to make edgy jokes, which is ironic because it ended up kind of looking like it was trying to be edgy as it was. But he keeps the stuff on for when Julia comes out, and then of course he's asked that question, and he's now having to answer a serious question about the safety of female performers within AEW amidst the sexual harassment allegation claims, whilst he's wearing a furry hat and big women's sunglasses. And he didn't take them off.
No, but this is the same bloke that wouldn't talk when CM Punk was letting him go at the Young Bucks and Kenny. So
but that because and he looked like a child in that. We all remember that. But this was even worse of a look, I think. Because if any kind of still that you grab of it, you've got people that don't know wrestling, people that don't know AEW, at least, right, are just going to see a young woman sat next to this man who supposedly owns the company wearing these goofy glasses and a goofy hat. And he's having to sit there and literally tell people and tell you that we take sexual harassment very seriously. The safety of our company is the safest of all. Now, he's a promoter. We got to remember he's a promoter. But the laughing stock for me for this is the statement that he's made, and he made it in all three of the times he was asked the question around the situation. He gave a relatively similar answer, which was that, AEW is, he believes, the safest place to work. And he says the usual stuff where you say, you can put that up. I would put that up against any other company. And I believe AEW is the safest place to work. This is the same man who a couple of months ago came out on live television to say that he feared for his own life on his own wrestling show.
Yeah.
So, and look, and I don't want this to be a big let's all bash AEW session. There's plenty of AEW. There's plenty about AEW that I like. The fact that it even exists is something that I like. But this sort of stuff, what bugs me, that bugs me on its own because it's a really poor luck when the owner of a company, the CEO of a company, is trying to have you believe that something as serious as sexual harassment, and especially within wrestling, like we keep hearing more and more stories about it, and it's so tiring. Like, why do they all have to be like this? And they all is strong, but like, why does it have to be like this? Like, for goodness sake, like, just get over it, guys. Like, do you know what I mean? It's something to do with the egos or something. I don't know. And I've seen it firsthand in person, backstage at events. I've seen people that are just the worst kind of people. And it's all just to do with the fact that they just think they're everything. And half of you are fucking nobodies. And that's to put that, perfectly bluntly. But I've seen it. And some of them know they are. But fuck them. The problem with this is that the owner of a company sits out like that and it makes a mockery of everything he's saying. You cannot take somebody seriously when they're sat like that. And PR stepped in and said he forgot he was wearing it. Okay, if it's as simple enough as that you forget that you're wearing a goofy hat and sunglasses, then how am I supposed to know how serious he takes it? And he keeps talking about this disciplinary committee. Shouldn't be a disciplinary committee. Tony, you're the owner.
Yeah. Well,
Come on, mate. Like, you've got to make those decisions.
They do say cocaine's a hell of a drug, so.
And look, and that's allegedly that he's on it, but he's on bloody something, I tell you.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember, not the same thing, but do you remember when Enzo got, apparently he was accused of raping a woman or a sexually assaulting a woman?
There was something like that, yeah.
Something like that, when he was the cruiserweight champion.
That's right. Like, yeah.
And within the day, within 24 hours, he got let go.
I think that was the straw that broke a camel's back, though, for WWE, because whether or not they'd done the investigation or not, there was plenty of other issues that Enzo was having at the company, and that for them was just like, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I think
because
he got
it brings
cleared.
a PR nightmare to him.
I think he got cleared, but then he did make that song.
He did get cleared. He made the song, and he even had those pants. I think was it in the video, or he went somewhere. I think he was wearing some pants like saying "innocent" or something on him, or
probably,
or something like that. And even that again, like just well done for being innocent, but it's just poor taste in it. But whatever.
Yeah. So Jericho better not make another Fozzy song if he's proven innocent.
Jericho's currently off of AWTV, from as far as I can tell.
No,
is he back?
He was on Rampage.
Was that pre-taped?
Probably pre-taped, so they probably did that. And I think him and Sammy got a title match next week.
If that's going to happen, and obviously that's only happened because Kenny Omega's injured once again, and this time could be out for quite some time. Turns out Kenny Omega, with all the pains he was having, didn't realise, but he actually has diverticulitis, which is, I don't know too much about it really. The first time I'd even heard of it was when it comes to like that Brock Lesnar had it, all those years ago.
It's like
and he nearly died from it.
Yeah, there was a time in like the mid 2000s when English footballers kept breaking their metatarsal, and like no one ever heard of a metatarsal before. Like, what happened? No, diverticulitis, because I think Joey Lawler had it for a bit. Shane McMahon had it.
I know Shane had it.
Yeah, so it's something that's happened a lot last.
It can be quite dangerous. It can be quite bad. Yeah. So obviously, Kenny Omega, whether you love him or not, I also think he's capable of having some of the absolute best matches in the world. But regardless, he's a human being, and hope that he gets well soon. Obviously, but it throws the plans out of the window. But again, if we know what Tony's like, it's that if he has to, if a plan gets derailed, he'll, as sure as the sun will rise in the east, he'll be back and he'll finish that plan, because he does not divert for anything.
No, because do you know what's weird? They announced on Collision that happened last night that Sting and Darby Allin are like, I think it's 26 or 36-0 as a tag team, and yet they've never had a title match. Yet, I mean, what happened to this ranking system anyway? Where
you can't do it. You can't look for logic in wrestling. You just can't anymore. There is a certain level that you have to. Like, there's certain things that jump out. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you just go, oh man, I can't suspend my disbelief even for a second on that. But other stuff, you've got to learn to let it go, because otherwise, that's how you that's how you book yourself into a hole, isn't it? Like, because you're absolutely right. But it was the same thing for FTR. Why wasn't FTR getting a tag team title shot when they had every belt going, across the world pretty much? You know? It's the same thing, but it's not within the plans to do it. And obviously, Sting will be retiring next month.
February, March, next month or so.
Next month, January. No, that's what I mean. That'll be it for Sting.
So people are theorizing that Sting might be, his last match will be for the tag titles, which I'd rather have him and Darby 1-on-1, but they could get a title shot and lose. But when one of the tag champions is rumored to be contract expiring soon, and then you got the contenders where one of them's in this really bad situation, and another potential contender is going to be retiring. Might as well put the belts on FTR or Young Bucks and just get it over with.
I don't know what's going to happen with it really, but I'd be surprised if Sting doesn't have a 1-on-1 as his last match.
Yeah, because that was another thing where they go, Malachi Black had no singles matches last year, but no. I don't think he might not be able to have a singles match. It might be like a limitation in what he can do as a 1-on-1 and has to do tag matches.
I don't know. I don't know. It's unclear.
I think
Sting's had 1-on-1s.
Has he? I just remember him having every match he's had being with Darby, or like an 8-man or 6-man or a 10-man, whatever.
I'm sure he's had at least 1-on-1. That's something to look at. Let us know in the comments. I'm sure he would have had one, but I can't tell you what it would have been. But it feels like there should have been at least one, right? Let us know in the comments if Sting's had a singles match in AEW.
I don't think, because obviously like the neck problem he had, which I still don't think he. I think he had neck problems, but not as bad for like the time. And I don't think he wanted to be in WWE anymore.
I don't blame him for how that run turned out. It wasn't good. But yeah, it's a shame really as well. I mean, the World's End, that was his last match in New York, and the match got taken over by, booing Chris Jericho, chants of NDA, and like all the stuff. It was just it got overrun by that. And back to one of my original points, that's what's a big shame with shows like this. Like, but AEW can put on a really good show, and it will be something like that happens in the bloody post show press conference, the media scrum, that will take all of the attention away from what just happened in the ring. That's what annoys me, because I just want to watch wrestling and enjoy wrestling. And if there's stuff that I don't enjoy, that's what I mean. I'm not the sort of person. I'm not going to go on and start moaning about it and whatever. Like, it is what it is. Like, you're not going to enjoy everything. But that just annoys me. It does just annoy me. We shouldn't have to be talking about something like that after the show, especially when it's been a good show, because all things considered, AEW had a really stellar year, I think, in terms of the pay-per-views that they put on. If you're a fan of the modern kind of style of wrestling, which is the high octane, flip-floppy, it's not just that, but like, it is very high octane, AEW. And if you're a fan of it, you get great matches there. You get great matches. But it's a point that we've been talking about recently, which for me, the biggest problem and the biggest thing that I want to see from AEW in 2024 is I want to see an improvement on story. I want a reason to be able to go, I need to continue to watch AEW, because AEW, in my opinion, there'll be people that agree with this opinion, and I understand there are people that won't agree with this opinion. Absolutely fine. But in my opinion, AEW relies too much on the hardcore wrestling fan knowing who people are. And because of that, it's only catering to a certain fan base. I do fit within that category, don't get me wrong, as you would as well, right? But it's not enough to keep me watching week to week. We can look at a lot of different dream matches that AEW's put on, even just this year alone. And you're bringing in guys like Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay, Okada, and I'm not just saying about them being signed to AEW, but them appearing at least on the product. But Kazuchika Okada, Jay White is there, Adam Cole, big thing in NXT. Maybe this Devil storyline is going to kind of revitalize him a bit. We'll have to wait and see. Bryan Danielson. You've got all of these guys there having these big matches that you just think, wow, like, I never thought I'd see this match, or I never thought I'd see those two again. Case in point, Samoa Joe, Punk. But you have the matches and then that's it. It's done. And a lot of times they're really, really great matches. They are. But the problem is, like, long-term wise, what we continue to talk about, I feel, in wrestling are the moments. And there isn't enough moments in AEW. There isn't enough. A moment in AEW is always some big, high-risk thing. And, with the amount of people that do get injured on there, and again, it's not my place to say, I'm not in the ring, but the amount of people that do seem to constantly keep getting injured in AEW, it's clearly a thing. And again, goes back to the whole, like, we're the safest company in the world. I don't know in what respect he means, because it certainly isn't what happens in the ring. But
no,
for me, there isn't enough story, and story is what keeps me involved, interested, and wanting to watch week to week. And that's where WWE pulled me back in. Which, by the way, you said this, Ash, a few years ago, the amount of people saying WWE is dead.
Yeah,
they did. And for me, it was pretty much dead. I was so done with WWE. And WWE was what got me into WWF at the time, but that was what got me into pro wrestling. But I was so sick and tired of the way that product had become, the way it seemingly treated us fans, that have been loyal to it for so long. And it was just like, it just didn't matter. And it was just a boring product to watch, Since Triple H then had stepped in and took more of that creative role, you cannot deny it has changed massively for the better. Well, absolutely for the better.
I would say the last like year or two of Vince being there, the TV was awful, but the PLEs, pay-per-views, whatever you want to call them, were really good.
Mm.
Now with Triple H involved, the TV's getting better, and the PLE, the PPVs, whatever you want to call them, are still good. You might get the odd bad one, but then that's with everything.
Yeah. Packet of crisps. You know, favorite flavor in the world, but you might get a dodgy one in there. It's what it is. Like, you're never going to have everything's going to be perfect all the time. It's not. And I honestly think that between both of those companies last year, that was one of the best years, 2023, in terms of, if you're just looking at the PLE/pay-per-views, that was one of the best years of pro wrestling that we've had.
Yeah, there was, you might maybe like, they all had one bad one a year, but the big ones.
Would you have said that any of them were bad last year? What was a bad AEW pay-per-view? What was a bad WWE PLE? I don't think there was any that were bad.
Well, World End hadn't, from what I saw, it wasn't the best.
Was it bad?
It was better than it. It's probably the one I've not enjoyed the most since All Out 2020.
Sure.
Funny enough, with like a big incident happening on the show. But what was it? I think Fastlane was the one I didn't really enjoy that much.
Fastlane, I think some of those, the WWE ones struggled a little bit more for me because with Roman not being there. And again, people have different takes on Roman right now. I still think that he's megastar, and when he's there, it's a real big deal. Even more so with The Rock coming back, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. But yeah, like Rumble was great, Chamber was great, Mania was great. SummerSlam was probably the weakest of the big shows.
Yeah, SummerSlam was probably the most. None of them were bad, I'd say SummerSlam was slightly disappointing. It was a great show. But it's because in comparison to like everything else that had happened so far that year, last year, SummerSlam actually was, I think, because it was long, and that's always going to go against the show for me when it ends up being really long, and it just didn't feel quite as, I don't know, it just didn't feel quite as good as the others, but it was still a good SummerSlam.
The main event dragged it down because of the finish, and it wasn't. I think we had big expectations because their matches in the pandemic era were really good, Roman and Jay. But I like there was some good stuff in SummerSlam, like Ricochet and Logan Paul was good. I enjoyed Cody and Brock, but then apart from that, when you had
that was their better of the three.
Yeah, when because it's the new year, I'm always waiting for the like Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the Mountsees review of the year, and I'm expecting worst match of the year to be Ronda versus Shayna at SummerSlam. So that's another bad moment.
That was a low light, certainly. Yeah.
Although I think the Pitch Black match, which we love, but everyone else seemed to hate.
Yeah, and even the thing is, like, I liked that match a lot. I thought it was different and it looked cool. It was silly, yeah, obviously, but like that's the point. And sometimes, just because something's silly doesn't mean, exactly. It's going to be a bit different now watching that back, just because knowing that was like Bray's last televised match. It's always going to have a bit of a different thing to it, which again, that was very sad, and we lost a lot of people last year. It'll be a year this month since we lost Jay Briscoe, in a terrible car accident. So
very early in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, really sad. But overall, back to the wrestling side of things, really good pay-per-views. They put on really good shows. But the point that I'm making really with AEW is that the story isn't there. And yes, they've had story with Adam Cole and MJF. You don't necessarily have to like it, and that's fine. If at least if they're having if you've got lots of stories, if they had as many storylines going on as they had factions, I think they'd be all right. Yeah. But the emphasis is just not on the story. The emphasis is on, we just want to put out all these really good matches. Well, that's great.
It does feel like they care more about the match quality than they do the show quality.
And that's the thing. Like, match quality from top to bottom does not always necessarily equal show quality, because you can do far less in a match. Like, I want to use an example for this. And I'm not trying to start like a WWE versus AEW, but as the comparison here, the Bloodline story at its peak with Sami Zayn involved. That's better than anything AEW's done all year, story-wise. It is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't have to agree. It's subjective. It's wrestling. It's fine. But that storyline for me, peak wrestling. We said it last year. It was like we was all calling it cinema, and because it felt so good. You look back to the finish of the Rumble last year, and that pop, that roar from the crowd when Sammy finally had enough. He buried that chair into Roman Reigns' back. Roman went down like a sack of shit. The crowd goes insane. And this is it. This is what we've been waiting for because they'd built it for months and months, and it worked. The match was Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Now, can you tell me, outside of on the spot that Kevin does sometimes where he gets like slammed back onto the steel steps at that awkward angle?
Oh, I love it, but it's
yeah, it looks like it sucks. But can you tell me what happened in that match?
Well, the ref bump. There must have been a ref bump.
There would have been a ref bump. It's a Reigns match.
There's one thing I remember, and that's Kevin Owens slipping on his console and nearly landing on Roman's head.
Yeah, okay, there was that. But
yeah,
can you clearly picture the end of the match? Because I think it was a spear.
Well, it must have been a spear because I don't think Roman.
But can you? You're saying it must be, but can you remember it vividly? Can you picture it in your head right now?
It was like 5 hours into watching the show, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning or wherever it was where we were.
So your answer is no, you can't remember the finish.
No, and it's about a year ago, so
no. But the match was good. It was fine, but it wasn't like the big 5-star matches that AEW is consistently trying to put on.
No.
But the fact is, we're still talking about the end. What we remember from that match was the story element, was that those minutes long build of Sammy in the ring and like the petals going everywhere and Owens being like handcuffed to the ropes, the Usos taking him out, Sammy getting heartbroken and finally snapping. That is what we remember, and that it's because it was the emotion and the story within the match about Sammy having to like give Roman the chair and stuff. It was conflicting. It was nothing to do with the moves. It wasn't about doing the fancy moves. It wasn't about that. Wrestling is more than just what happens within that ring, the physical side of it. And I think sometimes the older you get, the more you will appreciate that. Because I didn't as a kid, don't get me wrong, as a kid, I can see why AEW's demographic is what it is. Because as a kid, watching people like Viking go and stuff like that, doing what they do, that is insane. And it looks awesome. I'd have absolutely loved that because I wouldn't potentially have had the attention span and appreciation as a kid to, go on these long journeys for some of the stories that we're telling maybe now in WWE. But what Tony Khan says about long-term booking for me isn't necessarily long-term booking. You can't sort of say we're teasing the angle, we're teasing it. Now they're going to both go off and do different things for 6 months. And then we tease it again a bit more. Then they do things for 3 months. And then, now we're having a match. That's not long-term booking.
Keith Lee.
That's not.
Swerve.
Keith Lee and Swerve is a huge example of that. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not for us to know. We're the fans. But it's not story. It's not story. And this is my rant. But it's been a good few months now, so I'm getting it all out now. The rant, which I said to you the other day, and I know you agree with this. When a story is good, case in point for this one in AEW, Wardlow and MJF, it went on for a long time. Like we're talking years worth, really, because it was.
Yeah.
We're finally teasing, and we get the blow off in what was an awesome match between Punk and MJF, which in and of itself was a great feud.
Very much so.
Probably the best they've ever had, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Great feud. Dog collar match that was really good. And then that's also, the end of that feud and the end of that match, which was great as it was, also was the final turning point for Wardlow. So we came straight out of the Punk MJF feud and we solidified Wardlow's face turn, and now that's the next feud. They did the right thing with Wardlow. Wardlow absolutely squashed him at Double or Nothing. That's exactly how it just felt like it should have been.
But then what happened?
It got like a lot of other things in AEW. But even if we're going to give that a pass, it was still done so good. The crowd got so behind Wardlow. He was like, but this guy, like, this is it. This is big. And that's great because Wardlow really genuinely was a an out of nowhere guy. Like, he's not a face that you recognize from WWE or other promotions. You know, some places in the indies, sure, but like, he wasn't like, he never had this big television exposure. AEW is the one for him. So it was really, really awesome to see this happen. But then what happened after?
Wait, won the TNT title. Oh wait, yeah.
And then what happened?
Lost it and then won it again, and lost it and won it again.
In the hot potato title era of the TNT Championship, which, by the way, has been single-handedly saved by Christian Cage. And for everybody that was like, oh, not that bothered about Christian Cage when he got signed, look what he's doing.
Yeah, but that's my problem. It's like, how many people have been there for so long and just starting now to get interesting, like with Tony Storm.
Well, and that's
like
when you have to strike when the iron's hot, isn't it? Right? Yeah, but some of them have taken a while to like change their character. Like, Christian's come in as a Christian that we know. And it doesn't, but it's not a big deal for Christian. Christian's had like most of his time in wrestling already. His legacy's there, you know. Like, to be honest, he shouldn't have to be the one that was lifting and elevating that TNT title. He shouldn't have to be. He's doing it, and it's going to work then for potentially building up Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne and, you know, other people that are going to be involved with him, and now Edge as well. But like, it shouldn't have to be up to those guys at this stage, because we are 5 years in now. And we should have established more stars than MJF. And that's my biggest issue, is that you've just got, you know, a handful, really, of people that I'm really sort of caring about story-wise, you know, for anything that they do. And even then, we don't get much story with them. And that's a problem. And Wardlow, again, you know, after all of that, and it went nowhere. And now he's back in another faction as a heavy again, and we all know how it's going to play out. He's going to end up being, you know, if he does win the title, he's not going to give it to Adam Cole, and then they're going to have a rivalry, and that's that. Like, for someone who loses the predictions battles a lot of this really is predictable in terms of where you can see certain stuff going, and it's not always a bad thing. But like, if I can already think, well, that's going to happen, because when they was doing the, you know, last week, I guess it was, Adam Cole comes out and it's the Undisputed Kingdom, and, you know, we're doing Undisputed again, I guess. So like, he comes out and he's doing that. Literally, I know, right? This is it. But, you know, he comes out and he's saying that, and he goes, and Wardlow, he's promised when he wins the title, he's going to give it to me. He's going to forfeit it to me. And they do the close-up on Wardlow's face, and he's like, sure I am. Like, already giving it up, you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? And even that doesn't make sense. And this is what I said to you earlier. You can't look for too much logic. I am on a rampage right now. You can't look for logic in wrestling, Ashley, because I'll tell you why.
On rampage.
Yeah, and as many people are going to watch Rampage as they do watch this podcast. But Rampage, listen, we have been just patient. I think as patient as we can be with the Devil storyline, and that's fine. If it all works out great, that's awesome. However, Adam Cole as the Devil, and the way this story's played out with Samoa Joe to get him, and I really like the fact that Samoa Joe's champ, don't get me wrong, but Samoa Joe being the champ and that all being like a big part of the scheme with the Devil, and Wardlow's then going to challenge for that title. So why didn't they just do it with Wardlow to begin with? Why was it Samoa Joe in the position to beat MJF for the title? Why not Wardlow?
Because what's Wardlow done in the last 6 months?
But it doesn't make sense.
Well, they had the great
Wardlow squashed MJF. That's what I'm saying. If you want storytelling, which they had, and Wardlow squashed him. So if Wardlow is capable of beating the current AEW World Champion in, like, what was it, 3-4 minutes? If he was able to do that, then how was he not a contender for MJF when MJF then won that title? If you are going to look at it with like a logical pair of glasses on. So to me, why wouldn't they have like factored in, let's give Wardlow a shot at the title? Because then if we're under the understanding that he was part of the group the whole time, then they would have just had it so he won. If that's the plan to begin with.
I'm okay with Joe winning the title, but
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But I get Joe winning the title, but why did the Devil reveal when Adam Cole was? I know MJF's injured, but do it when Adam Cole's fit and ready. But another thing was like,
Yeah.
Once again, I like Joe being champion. It's great. Just don't get injured like you did for the NXT title. But they had the opportunity of making Swerve the guy to be MJF. I think it should have been him, but no. He will have that match with Keith Lee that doesn't happen because he's injured. Then he beats Dustin Rhodes after 10 minutes of beating him up like 10 minutes before that match happened, and now he's going back to Hangman, which is like, what's the point? You've already beaten him twice.
Yeah.
It's like how many times did Jericho feud with someone where he won the third match after being 2-0 down?
What for me on that, if they do not do something good with Swerve,
yeah, but he should
then it's a crime, and Tony really should be investigated himself for criminal activity. And that's not just the Snowman claims. If he can't put Swerve somehow on the map as like a big deal in that company, outside of just because the matches he's putting on again, that's one thing, but if they can get some good story behind to really, because like the man's a menace, that character could be genuinely super intimidating. I think Swerve's shown that, and again credit to AW there and Swerve, because I didn't see that side of his character over in NXT in WWE. No. The Swerve we're seeing now, totally different. And the same thing for Toni Storm. And that's back to what you said, like, why didn't we get these sort of things? It took so long for us to get there. But, you know, Toni's gone through that transition and she's found now what works for her. And Seth Rollins is a big thing for that. If you look at WWE, Seth has always been great in ring, but it took him a while to really find like a proper identity.
Well, you can say that about Becky Lynch as well.
Yeah, you can. And that's not a knock on anybody, because now look at them. Like, they are faces of WWE easily.
Because
Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Like, it took so long to find head of the table, and now he's got it. The biggest star in the company easily.
Did you see this video they did of the Usos in 2013, and Jay's doing that, and about 3 people are doing it, and then
and now watching everybody's doing.
It's like it's just weird how these things happen. It's like, but then the opposite way of, remember when the Acclaimed were like the most over thing in AEW?
Yeah, but
I keep forgetting that we saw them win that trios title. I keep forgetting they've still got the belts.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, wrestling is what have you done for me lately culture. That's what you know when people say wrestling fans are fickle. Yeah, to a degree, but there also is, like, remember, we're watching week to week. If you don't give viewers a reason to care about people are going to stop caring. It's what happened with Wardlow. It's what happened with Hangman to a degree, because again, Hangman and Kenny was another example. That whole story and the payoff was great. AEW has great payoffs to when they do have a story, but Tony just doesn't seem to have a direction for anything after. That's my biggest criticism of AEW in terms of what I watch, and that's why I don't watch it week to week properly. So
I think Hangman should have been had a longer title reign, but because Punk just had to happen, I guess. I felt the same way in a different way about Nyla Rose when she won the title and she didn't have that long reign. And
now Nyla, what's Nyla doing now?
I think she's Ring of Honor, but I don't think she's like a contender at all.
Ring of Honor, see, that's another one. One of my expectations, what I want to see this year, just please let Ring of Honor just be its own thing. Just like Ring of Honor was always a developmental area, like it was WWE's feeding ground, and I can't see why can't we just have Ring of Honor as like an NXT because they did Dark and they did all these other things. Now they're gone. Just have Ring of Honor be its own thing, and just put like the guys on there that need a little bit of extra time and whatever. Have them over there and get Dean Malenko over there and get all these guys that have helped shape like some of the guys we're watching today, and they're like the best thing ever. Like he's got so many people.
What was the last Ring of Honor show called again? Was that Final Battle?
It was Final Battle, yeah, last month.
Yeah. They didn't have their world champion in a match until like the last minute.
No. And that's the thing. That's why I've not bought. I'm not buying all-in tickets yet, because I know they're not going to start announcing matches until a week before. And I'm sorry, it worked once because it was the first time we had a show in Wembley at that, our current Wembley ever, but the first big stadium show in the UK wrestling-wise in many, 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 many years. You know, Clash at the Castle Clash at the Castle doesn't. Clash at the Castle counts, but it was in Wales. But it was in England. We haven't had one.
Well, I mean, obviously Money in the Bank, but that could have easily been Wembley. But I think it was Duran Duran or something like that was playing.
But it wasn't in a stadium. A stadium show, Ash. What I'm talking about, and you know, stadiums are different, and that's what I'm saying. Like there, it was to a degree the novelty of it, because it's like, holy shit, we got wrestling at Wembley Stadium. I'm gonna go. And people that don't even watch AEW saw, oh, Sting's there, Jericho's there, big names that you recognise. They're like, oh, I remember them from my childhood, so they went.
It did also feel like they were pushing those names, not the ones that you won't heard of,
because they wanted to try and fill. It was smart in that regard, but build to it, because if you're not going to bother building to it early enough this year, they're not going to sell as many tickets. I'll guarantee that.
Well, the poster for this year's didn't include MJF when he was champion. So, and if that rumor about him being injured for a whole year is true, then they probably made the right choice.
Well, it's difficult because you can't start advertising for it at the moment and put expect the promotional material to be the same when we get there, because you know Joe's champion now and he might not be in 3-4 months, or he might not be by the time we get to All In. But you know, look, my point is that the booking wise, you've got to give people a reason to tune in, and that even back to here, because as much as I do really want to go again, because I love watching live wrestling, but I'm looking at potentially spending more money to go this year because I want better seats, and if I'm going to spend more money, I want to know the card's good too. Because you know, at the same time, when you've got bills to pay, you've got responsibilities, you can't keep justifying triple figures on something just for the experience. You can't. So, you know, he owes that to us in that regard. You know, you've got to give us a reason to spend that money, Tony. And at the minute, not for me. Not for me. I'd rather save up and spend my money on a WrestleMania, which is super indicative of something, stuff that I was saying even a year ago, 2 years ago, where I was so done with WWE. But that's the point, is that like anything can bring you back round if it's going to try. Like if it tries to genuinely like become interesting, if he genuinely does change things up, and stories come in, the things that I'm looking for in wrestling, if he starts providing it through AEW, I'll start watching it, because it's not a case of I'm WWE and that's the end of it. And then before, I'm AEW and I hate WWE. But you only have finite time, people. There's finite time in a week, and there's so much wrestling out there. You're going to go for what pulls you in the most. And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes you're too busy in a week and there is nothing going on in wrestling that you think, I must see that at the moment. But like I said at the beginning, we're approaching WrestleMania season.
Wrestle Kingdom brings in New Japan, and then no one really talks about it until maybe a few months later when it's Dominion, and then G1, and when they obviously do like Forbidden Door. But no one really talks about New Japan like they used to. And obviously that's because like Mega, Bucks, and all the people that are now in AEW, didn't help it.
But New Japan's not really made much of an effort to try and promote outside of Japan.
And they do that. What is it called? Royal Crest. But apart from that,
but that's just here, and I'm not talking about here though. I'm talking about like overseas in general. Like unless you're paying for New Japan World and you really are an avid follower, they're not going to bring necessarily that many new fans. An America show, yeah, they do ones, and obviously now they've got ones with like, AEW.
They had like US Strong or something like that, but then that stopped.
Oh, they cancelled that, I think, didn't they?
Yeah.
New Japan Strong.
Yeah, I think they had the American version. Then that's why.
But they didn't have all of your big names on it though either.
No, but they had Kingston and like maybe Moxley, but I don't mean they had like the Japanese names.
Yeah, but that were exactly the sort of guys we want to be able to see.
I mean,
as well as like the other ones.
I don't know what's his name now, but Darren Young.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is now. He's jacked now as well, isn't
he? I mean, that's how like Juice Robinson made a name for himself for being Bullet Club.
And I like Juice. I really like Juice Robinson, and I think
I don't, because he's married to Tony Storm. Man, it's like, come on, man. But he is very entertaining. Bullet Club Gold. I don't know where I know he's injured, isn't he? But I don't know about the Guns.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm conscious that it's turned into a big old bash session to start the year, the New Year's bash of AEW. But look, I've given mine. I want to hear some from you. But my expectations, what I want to see from AEW this year, I want to see more story. I want them to give me a reason to tune in. I want them to give me a reason to spend money to go to All In, and please put Ring of Honor separate to AEW. Just focus on the story, the AEW story, Ring of Honor story. Keep them separate. We don't need the crossover stuff. And then when we do the crossover stuff for like Forbidden Door, give us proper story. Give it. Don't just announce matches like a week before, because we know the show's going to be good. Like, we know it is. You don't need to prove that anymore. We know that the quality of the actual wrestling is going to be amazing. There will be at least one 5-star Meltzer match on there. There will be something on there that will all go, that was incredible.
Well, funny enough,
it doesn't live on forever. It doesn't live on forever.
I think I don't know about. I don't think there's any on World's End 5-star Meltzers. But the only one that I know that didn't get one was All In.
Yeah. But again, for us, the experience of being there was great.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, the FTR Young Bucks match was awesome.
And Punk Joe.
Yeah, really liked that match.
MJF and Cole was good.
Yeah. They've got a big mountain to climb AEW this year, because losing CM Punk and then him showing up in WWE, we've got to see what happens with that, because the whole thing's been, if CM Punk behaves himself in WWE, it's not almost you kind of want, if you're AEW management, you kind of want Punk to get himself in trouble in WWE, because then at least you can go, see, look, we told you he was bad. Like, but if he doesn't, it's going to look like a huge blow.
I'm liking the fact that he's not going to be on every week, because that's something that I feel like ruined like Punk or Jericho for me when they were, because they'd be on TV
every single week, and it was always cutting some sort of promo that was like, goody washy.
But it also felt like with Punk when he came back, was like they hadn't to make an excuse for him to be on TV every week, like did a commentary or did a promo. It's like, it's great, but Sting's on every week.
No.
So what is
just too much of a good thing, and that's my case in point with the wrestling in AEW, is that the matches are usually, especially the bigger matches, they're usually going to be top notch. But the trouble is, like, too much chocolate gets sickly, and that's about as best of a comparison as I can make. Love chocolate, great. Eat too much, you're a bit sick of it, and it's just too much. There's too much chocolate. That's what it comes down to. Not enough story.
It's like I know it's a complaint because they've been champions, but when Brock and Roman aren't on every week, but when they are on, you're going to watch it because you know something good's going to happen.
Because it's going to be a big deal, yeah.
Now, and that's. It seems like Roman's back now. Roman's going to be at the Rumble and going to be on every week, but you can't miss someone until they've gone, really, can you?
Yeah, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and that's why I guess coming to The Rock. I mean, Rock's always going to get a massive reaction when he comes out, and they did the little bait and switch with Jinder, which is funny
because the reactions of like someone's on the phone, like, oh, Jinder comes out, oh,
yeah, and it's great because like Jinder. Bless him, he didn't get the best shake of things with that WWE title run because it was pretty poor. The worst thing about the whole thing was I just remember it being like it was like the final nail in the coffin for Shinsuke, really, during that one, or at least it felt like it to me. But that was also like we were approaching the sort of time where I was really kind of done with WWE by that point. Like, it was getting there. The only thing I was really watching and actually cared about was NXT by then.
Yeah.
So that's what, 2016?
2017.
Yeah, around that sort of point.
Yeah,
so
it's mad because it felt like that was the end of wrestling, because obviously there was no AEW at the time, and
Yeah.
TNA was nowhere where it was like a few years before that, and Ring of Honor was dying slowly.
And WWE not wanting to acknowledge themselves as a wrestling company.
Yeah, because that's one of the weird things. Whenever you watch like early to mid-90s WWE, where Vince is on commentary and like, this is great professional wrestling, and there are times where I go, I'm not really a fan of the term professional wrestling, because it makes mockery out of amateur wrestling to me. But
but I mean, on that though, how often do you watch amateur wrestling?
the Olympics and Commonwealth.
Yeah, so once every 4 years.
I did that stupid thing going, well, he might be in UFC or this guy might be WWE.
Yeah, but that's semantics, right? Like, if that's
I'm
the problem,
kind of
the fact that it's called amateur wrestling to begin with, it's kind of on them. Like, if you say, oh, someone's an amateur, it's usually a derogatory term. So if you're going to call something amateur wrestling, that's on them. They should have changed it then, shouldn't they?
I'm just annoyed.
I'm not calling out amateur wrestlers to get my arse beat, but I'm just saying, like, one's called professional wrestling, that's just what it's called. The other one's called amateur wrestling. And most people in the world call it fake wrestling anyway. Pro wrestling. And that's the irony of the whole thing.
I love the people that think that UFC is fake. And sometimes it's not. If you ever watched Pride back in the day, then it was.
There's a reason that's not around. But
there's many reasons that wasn't around. But
people calling wrestling fake, and look, people that don't understand wrestling are going to call it fake. They don't get it, and you can't explain it to someone that doesn't want to know.
People call it fake anymore, unless you're like kayfabe's dead.
Well, kayfabe's evolved, doesn't it? It's pretty much all dead. But again, I don't need to care about that because I'm already a fan. All I want is just to enjoy what I'm watching.
I did love everyone's thing like, oh, wrestling's fake, right? Yeah. You watch Game of Thrones? Yeah, that's fake, right? And then you're always like, oh, it's not.
Yeah, but there's always that. You're always going to get people can't make the comparison, and the problem is because it does cater itself to being a sport. So when you're saying it's a sport, sport is not supposed to be predetermined, and wrestling is predetermined.
But I always like the fact that
that's the problem. It hurts itself in that regard.
I always love it when people say the first match I show people to show them wrestling is Taker and Foley, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, always. Yeah, same for me.
I'm thinking it's great and everything, but that makes it look like worse in a way because someone could have died really badly.
I know, but I think the reason that you and I and many others, no doubt, use that match as the one to be like, oh, you think wrestling's fake, do you? And then you show them that match. It's because there's no way that you can show a man get thrown off the top of that cell through a table and then go through it. There's no way you can do that. And someone turns around and goes, yeah, but he would have known how to fall properly, wouldn't he? He would have known. There's no way you can do it because it's a man literally being thrown from a height.
How do you fall off a 20-foot ladder?
Body's broken in half.
But it's funny, isn't it? The matches people want to see are like the ones where people actually get injured, and
because
you never want to show someone who's never watched wrestling like a quality match, like Taker Michaels or Mega Okada or whatever. It's like, no, we'll show Mick Foley falling off a cell and getting his
but that's the same. I would argue that's the same for anything. If someone's not a football fan, they're not going to care about a compilation of great bloody worldies, are they? But you show them something of someone's. It's morbid, but someone collapses on a pitch, or someone has a big injury, breaks their leg, snaps in half on a pitch, or something like that. People will watch those reels, whether they like the sport or not, because that's what people start watching stuff because it's like a morbid curiosity. I think that's big. That is a big thing with wrestling, and it will be the same with MMA. I guarantee it. People that don't watch cage fighting, mixed martial arts, or anything like that, you see some of those like ones that was doing the rounds. When people would do the leg kicks and like, because Anderson Silva had that bad one. When kicks and it's the overextension and the leg just flops around like a door. That people will watch that. And of course, we're in the era of like TikTok and everything now, man. Like you slap a fucking slow down version of a song that was once popular and all the kids don't know it anymore, and now all of a sudden it's trending on Spotify because it's been used on TikTok, and you put that over an injury compilation and put some effects on it.
Well,
that's all people need now. It's that's the way people are consuming media.
But how many songs have been on Stranger Things and then became big hits again, running up the hill and Master Puppet? It's just I kind of wish people would get to a different way, but if it's a good way of getting them noticed, then why not?
Well, look, it depends, right? Because you can't be protective and territorial over stuff like that.
No, but that's the worst
it's like Alter Bridge. We love Alter Bridge. If they've never really been a massive, huge band, really, more so I suppose over here, in Europe, I'd argue they're probably a bigger deal than they are even in the States. But then you look at Creed, it's never reached the same heights as Creed did. But the fact is, I wouldn't get upset if tomorrow Alter Bridge suddenly became the biggest band in the world and everybody knew them and loved them, and all of a sudden everyone's getting the tattoos. I've got one, but if everyone's getting all the stuff, I'm not going to get upset about it. I mean, yeah, we're going to be a bit we've been fans for nearly 20 years. We've been fans pretty much since they started. But I'm not going to get upset about it because it helps. It's good for them.
It's like the thing about Man City before they got bought by the Saudis or whoever it was. They were getting good crowds, but they were never really doing anything. And then when they do get the money and they become successful, it's how many of you people were really there when you were a mid-table League Two team, not doing well? It's
that's glory supporting, though, right? That's glory supporting, though, isn't it? I mean, that's
It's how many people? It's another football thing is how many kids do you see wearing Ronaldo and Messi shirts? How many people actually support? You don't really support their teams. You just want it because it's their name. I didn't wear Rock and Austin stuff when I was a kid because they were only wrestlers. I had Undertaker stuff. I think I had the Undertaker skateboard.
Yeah, but that's slightly different though, isn't it? Because people sometimes make that comparison, but a team is not. A football team is the equivalent to a wrestler. But the difference that you've got within wrestling is you're allowed to like so much more. You can't just go out there and go, do you know what? I love 20 teams. It's too different of a thing to compare to. But that's the closest you're going to get is by saying a team is similar to a wrestler because, company wise, it's not. You could say, right, I only watch Premier League, but I also only watch WWE, for example, right? And full well, there's people that will only watch non-league football because they're tired of the way that Premier League is presented now and the way it has been, where it's become so money orientated that actually it's really difficult for newer fans to come into it anymore because parents don't necessarily have the money to have BT Sports and Sky Sports and everything else that's on the go. When you've got, we're run through this whole era now where you have to have a subscription for everything and they all cost small amounts, but you need so many of them that it all just adds up. And then you get things like BT that isn't cheap. You're going to be looking at about 50, 60, 70 pound upwards for that, just for a sports package, and it's difficult for families to kind of have that now, especially working class. So, how are there going to be that many? And least of all to go to a game. I mean, to buy merchandise, you're looking at over £100 for a kit, even just for a shirt. Spurs or City or those big Premier League teams. It's money that a lot of families don't have, and that's the problem. That's the biggest problem.
But now going back to the wrestling side of it, remember pre-Pipe Bomb Punk and how he was really not. He was getting good reactions, but it would never seen as anything but mid card, really upper mid card. Even though he was being world champion before. Then the Pipe Bomb happened, and then suddenly everyone's a CM Punk fan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're well, where were you when it was Straight Society losing his head to Rey Mysterio a year before that?
Yeah, but you can argue that it would have took that whole journey that it had to be able to really let out that kind of emotion within the Pipe Bomb. Is if it had just dropped that Pipe Bomb within a few months or a year or even 2 years of being in the company, it wouldn't have had the impact. I think timing is a massive thing, as it is with anything, but certainly within wrestling and those kind of moments where you kind of just get sort of catapulted into like the, whoa, holy shit. Because I mean, how often do you get someone who gets that white hot so overnight almost? And that's a bit of a disservice, because it's not like it was overnight for CM Punk. He put in years and years and years of work before that point. But that's what I mean. Like, he needed all of that behind him to kind of let all of that out for that incredible moment with the pipe bomb. It wouldn't have been the same if it was only a few weeks in.
In the same way, look at when Zack Ryder did McDonough did the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
that took it. It was slowly building, but it's like
he was a bit too ahead of his time with that one, I think, and probably
and
not.
How long it took for like that to really kick off, and then be US champion for about a month. That really went nowhere.
He said himself, even recently, I think on Chris Van Vliet's show Insight, that, you know, at the time he genuinely really did think it was going to mean big things for him, and he could see himself being in the main event, but he just didn't see at the time what they were really doing to him, which is a shame, because like we all did, because we was all getting like so annoyed by it. Like, why is he in this bloody angle with Eve? And it's this whole thing, and she boots him in the balls at Mania, and it was like, oh, God's sake, because we all got behind him. And again, now it means like next to nothing. And it's very much, again, what have done for me lately. And at the time, he was hitting that kind of sort of area of us smart fans that were looking at things like that on YouTube and going, oh, that's really different. That's cool. You know, like now, so oversaturated. You have to really think outside the box to get yourself over with stuff. You know, so. And which he has done. If you look at like what he's doing now, he's just hustling. He's a big hustler, and he's making good money, and he's doing really well on the indies. He doesn't need to come back to the big league, so to speak. He'll probably want to, but he doesn't need to. Not financially.
It's like social media when that started was like a massive thing, because it just kicked off.
Yeah.
Going back to where we were originally going to go with The Rock, because like, what was it? 83 million,
back to The Rock.
83 million views. This return's got is like,
yeah.
And you go, I think, it's like back in like 99 when like the ratings were like 8.5s. Obviously, like we've been through this before, where TV ratings have changed everything, and now people care about the demos than they do about the ratings, even though that makes no difference to me. But and then you go,
it doesn't mean anything to us, but it's an easier metric to measure.
It's like the thing now. Like, look at when Logan Paul and Ricochet did their get together at Rumble, and how massive that went for a while. And compared to like, it's funny because The Rock coming back with like big money with big deal, but when Joaquin Phoenix did that whatever his name is, Joaquin Wild did his big dive on NXT.
Joaquin Phoenix?
Huh?
Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
It's the Joker.
DJZ. That's how I remember him as. But when he did his massive dive on NXT, like, that's what people will talk about. And then I think SmackDown's biggest moment was Roman just doing his entrance backstage. It's like, it's just how it is now.
It is. And not to like keep going back to what I was saying, but again, it's another point of, you know, they'll show WWE reposted the clip of Sami Zayn making Jay and Roman crack up last year, you know, feeling Usi. Nobody's even, no bumps, nothing, not a headlock, just an in-ring segment that's going to live on because it was a moment. You know, but they can replay certain stuff every now and then. It's good for the highlight reel. Like we said, like when Ricochet first debuted in NXT and he did the big jump flip outside of the ring, everyone was like, whoa, it was like, that's amazing. But it's a shame because like you can do stuff like that, but it just won't live as long. It just won't live on as long. Like, it just doesn't. You have to be reminded by it, by them putting it out there for stuff like that. Because it doesn't resonate enough with you to leave like a lasting impression and a feeling. It's emotion in wrestling. If something made you laugh, it made you really angry, it made you sad, it made you whatever. If it made you feel something, you won't necessarily need to be reminded by, oh, this has happened a year ago, this happened 3 years ago. by those posts. The thing is, like, people do consume so much now through their phones and through all that kind of stuff, which we've said before. People do consume it, and it is, in all honesty, it's a much better metric to measure on, because again, like, how many people are going to be watching the product week to week through television? It is less than there are than people before, because I don't watch TV anymore. I don't watch normal terrestrial television. I don't. All of my stuff is through streaming, and it's through YouTube. Like, that's how I consume my content now. So I'm not going to be a statistic anywhere for normal television. But if it's something through BBC or ITV or something like that, Channel 4, there are you've got BBC iPlayer, ITVX, Channel 4 app, whatever it's called. I guess My4, I think it is, something like that.
Isn't it?
But like,
My4.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like, I'm watching it on there, but that's not going to count as like I watched that when it was aired on television.
Yeah,
most people won't.
It's the same thing in America. Like, you got Peacock and you got Warner Brothers, whatever it is, like Disney Plus. It's way too
Paramount,
much. But
HBO.
Yeah, there's way too. It's like every network has one now.
And that's my problem overall with the subscriptions thing, but we won't go into that. Let's go to The Rock. Let's talk about The Rock. We'll wrap up with The Rock, because there is big things coming up with The Rock. You actually, to be fair, you actually also didn't give me your expectations for AEW, so I want those now. Thanks.
Swerve be world champion.
That's an expectation.
That's what I want to happen. I feel like we go through this every year with like a wrestler. We go, this should happen.
Oh yeah, no, let's not do it as a prediction, because I'm salty on that anyway. And also last year I predicted that Eddie Kingston was going to become the world champion, and to be fair, he did end the year with 3 belts. Yeah, I think that does count, but
I said
what I thought.
I said Dominic was going to win Money in the Bank, and
he wasn't even in it.
So I did kind of get it right with the faction.
I sort of got my Eddie Kingston one right, but I did say that he was going to dethrone MJF, and that's not what happened.
It made me laugh, because I remember I watched a WrestleMania from about this time last year, and Priest was qualified for being the Elimination Chamber for the US title match. I think it was US title, and he said in the promo, right, I'm going to win Money in the Bank. I mean, I'm going to win Elimination Chamber. And it's funny how doing that promo where he botched it, you win Money in the Bank. But for AEW, I'm hoping for a better women's division, as in the matches are great and everything, but just maybe care about them. Even if it is Monet and the 5 million a year for 5 years.
3 million, wasn't
it? Whatever it is, it's like,
it's more money than I've got.
Yeah. It's like, great you got Perazzo, great you've got Mariah May, and great you've got Tony Storm doing well. Well, who else is there then? Because everyone else is like when Saraya came in and then won a title and then did bugger all with it, and then you got Britt Baker, who's injured at the minute, but what are you going to do with her that you did like when she was the biggest star in the women's division?
Well, I could have done something. Adam Cole's injured and he's involved in the biggest storyline going, so there's no excuse.
There is.
I want to see Miro again. I think that was an expectation for 2023. So I'll carry that forward to 2024, and I want to see more Miro. I want to see more meat. I want to see more Bulgarian Brute. I want to see more Redeemer. I want to see that man tear other people's arms off and use them as drumsticks.
I say
if I don't get it.
But I said this to you in was it yesterday or the day before? It was like, he is the biggest con man, where he's getting paid so much money to do bugger all. But
he's a con man. We know that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's not. Maybe that's a problem.
That's why
it's not on TV.
Imagine if they did the schedule like WWE did, where you not like 300 times a year, but going around and actually getting the product known more. How much like people like Miro would be doing.
Yep.
I might call him a con man, but I do like the guy. It's just that he gets paid so much money to do like limited amount of dates.
Yeah, but how much is on him?
Going back to the women's division, Thunder Rosa's back, but I don't know if she's wrestling. She did come back on a collision like a week before the New Year. No, I don't know what's going on with her.
So you want a better women's division?
Women's division, and I don't personally care about how good a match is. Just don't make it
story.
And then do matches where it's not obvious who's going to win, like Moxley versus Action Andretti. Is like, well, we know who's going to win, and I know it's going to be good, but why?
That's what I mean. I'm not tuning in for that because I don't care.
Yeah.
To be, I don't mean that to be insulting, but I just don't. Like,
it's in the same way with like if I see the words Gunter versus whoever, I know the match is going to be great.
Yeah.
Or like Seth Rollins versus whoever, I know it's going to be great. Or like you can advertise like Ripley or like whoever, but you know it's going to be great. The match quality might not be the best, but you know it's going to be great.
So that's your expectations.
Yes.
So we'll see if those come to fruition. I agree, though. It would be nice to see, especially that we say that every year, but about the women's division. Let's get a lot more. I don't think it's fair. I'm not going to do mine. You can do yours if you want to. I'm going to give expectations for WWE this year. I want it to maintain the level of excitement, particularly if what we all think is going to happen at WrestleMania happens. The thing is, and where this ties obviously into The Rock coming back, is how this affects the plan. So Roman, it's kind of like, it doesn't have to be this way, because I always said I didn't think Roman should take a loss until it was him getting rid of the title. And obviously, and I said, I feel like it will diminish when he then does lose the title. But actually, I don't think that's the case, because there's still been a lot of time between where he has picked up his pinfall loss to then wherever he'll drop the title. And the fact that it happened to the Usos still meant a lot for that story, which again is another prime example of why we as the fans are not always right. So if we're always going to be like, oh, I want it this way and that way, it doesn't necessarily mean actually there is probably a better way. So, with that being said, it still is kind of the idea and the expectation is that Roman is going to drop the title at WrestleMania to Cody Rhodes, because we're going to pick that story up.
Yeah. Now, I'll accept it. I'm not a massive Cody fan, and
no,
I kind of get to that point now where Roman's done it all. And if he's facing The Rock, fine, but I don't think that needs a title.
It's never needed a title, that one. But the thing is, we know that match is imminent now, or at least it feels like it's going to be, because Rock's back tomorrow, I think, isn't he? We're recording this on a bit late to say it now, hour and a half in, but we're recording this on Sunday the 7th. I can't see Rock's not going to come out and do that, which, by the way, was awesome. Once we got past, we said about Jinder and that whole thing, and that was really cool. Not a fan of the whole "I hate America." It's really just outdated. But that aside, still awesome to see Jinder in the first place. And I felt like he looked, his presence wise, he was like on par with The Rock. Like he's got, it's weird. Like you forget like how kind of big Jinder is.
Yeah. For me, he looked. I don't know if it's because obviously next to The Rock you're going to look small, but he looked a lot smaller than he was when we talk about his world title.
Come on, next to The Rock, you said it yourself. Next to The Rock, he's going to look small, but after the arse whooping, Rock hits the hole. Should The Rock sit in a booth? Should The Rock sit at the bar, or should The Rock sit at the head of the table? Crowd erupts.
I can't imagine The Rock being anywhere near a bar nowadays.
Because he's sipping on his Terramana.
But he would get service quicker, but there'd be too many people around him.
Well, also, regardless, that's obviously not where he was going with the promo, was it?
But in another way, ahead of what table? Because aren't all tables
moving swiftly on? But they're not. You can't say all tables are the same. They're not. What you've derailed this again. We're trying to get to The Rock, but I'm not letting that comment pass. I'm not letting that slide. Not all tables are the same.
I am the slide.
No, forget slides. Not all tables are the same. Tell me why all tables are the same.
I mean, like it was a restaurant, wasn't it?
No, get anywhere.
No, it talked about the promo, and it's like you talking about.
So you think all restaurant tables are equal?
I think so.
It feels like it's going to get political. We'll discuss it off camera.
Right.
But look, whatever. Goofiness aside, right? It's obviously imminent that this match is going to happen. Problem is that there's some really interesting stuff they can do. Punk has just come back. Now, although Punk's destiny, really as it is, as it were, is aligned with Rollins right now, and that's a money-making match, it's kind of also a little bit of an FU to AEW in a roundabout kind of passive sort of way. Like, Seth and Punk really don't like each other, but that's the first angle. We're going straight into it because it's going to make money. And, obviously you guys over in AEW couldn't do that with the Bucks and Kenny and stuff like it, because it would have made money. But they couldn't iron out the differences. It is sad, but we are where we are now. That's going to be a main event match, regardless of whether Punk wins the Rumble or not. Yeah, night one, I think it's got to be, hasn't it? But night one, Punk finally getting his WrestleMania main event. And if we do go back to when, after the pipe bomb, he was white hot, but it all kind of it did fizzle out pretty quick, and Triple H is massively at the center of that, and I think rightly so. He was inserted in, and it derailed Punk. He took a one-on-one victory over him that he really didn't need at Night of Champions, I think it was, wasn't it? And
yeah, because Kevin Nash got injured, surprisingly.
He
turned up, didn't he? It's what's the point?
The whole thing just felt so unnecessary. Punk should have been non-stop winning, and it was, I don't know, kind of bullshit. But it is what it is. By the time he turned heel, and he turns heel on The Rock, the big thing he's saying is, and it does kind of echo a little bit of what he did in the pipe bomb, but look, I worked my arse off, and I've been the guy. Resurgence, everybody's just jumped on Punk again, seemingly overnight. But once again, I'm about to lose my WrestleMania main event to you and Cena, and he did. Even when he was the WWE champion for WrestleMania, didn't get main event with Jericho. So
it was second to last match.
Yeah, so he never actually got the main event, and so Rock got it.
And that's not the same thing, but the amount of times they did Rumble winner with main event WrestleMania, and there'd be a third or fourth match or opener.
Yeah, but now they say that we've got 4 main events in one show. That they I guess they get away with it. No, but we all know there's only one real main event, and it's the last match on the card. That's that. But if I would be really surprised. No, you can make a great match. You can make great matches through the whole thing, but there is only one main event. But I would be really, really, really surprised if CM Punk does not acknowledge the fact that he's just returned after 10 years, really, to WWE. And literally as soon as he's returned and he's been I'm going for the main event, The Rock comes back. And it's funny because they did that backstage segment between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And that was a few weeks ago. I think it was on SmackDown, wasn't it? When CM Punk was going through the different shows to be offered these contracts and whatever before he agreed to go to Raw. But they had that interesting, really brief backstage segment between CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. It's that professional kind of, kept it cool, both baby faces, but it's you better not get in my fucking way kind of thing, right? So Cody's saying, so that's what you need to finish your story, and that's interesting. Because Cody's whole thing is he's trying to finish his. They both can, because 2 nights of WrestleMania now, everyone's a winner. Punk does one night, Cody does the other, but The Rock is really going to blow that out of proportion. Now, Rock's obviously going to go for Roman, that's fine, but I still think they would be remiss if CM Punk does not at least comment on it, being I'm not about to lose out to The Rock. Because why not build all this? Because that's one thing that WWE's gotten really good with over the past year or two, since Triple H has taken more of the helm, is those intertwining stories. Not only are we just telling one, but some crossover with others and stuff, and it's this whole kind of woven web of different stories that kind of cross over and makes things really interesting. Things sometimes spill out of their own little bubble, and it's cool. But Cody's is the big one. We kind of all just expect Roman Reigns is going to drop the title this year to Cody, because we kind of all expected it last year. You didn't. You predicted Roman, but the majority, was that we all kind of thought Cody was going to win.
In my head, I felt like I predicted Cody to win, but there's a lot of times where I predicted I honestly for this year, because it's 40 and every Mania that ends in O has like a major win at the end of the show. Obviously, you could easily change it.
It's got to be Cody.
Like, how many years was it like until like a heel won the main event of Mania?
Yeah.
And now like we go, well, Mania 10, Bret beat Yoko after, funny enough, losing it the year before. Mania 20,
yeah.
Benoit wins that triple threat, and that got tainted. Mania 30, Brian wins a triple threat that basically was some 20 all over again. So 40.
So 40 could be the repeat of 10.
Could
but I think that's the expectation, though, isn't it? Like Cody to win it, but then. But the thing is, people are saying, like, are we then, instead of having Rock and Roman at Mania, are we just going to do it at Elimination Chamber because it's going to be a big show in Australia? But, like, I'm not going to complain about it, like, at all. It's just that we've always had, there's two expectations that we've got there. One is that Cody and Roman is going to happen again at Mania and Cody's going to take the title. The other expectation is that Roman and The Rock are going to have a WrestleMania main event. The problem is where it's come together in the same year. And I feel like The Rock and Roman is a WrestleMania match.
Because
and it, I've got to be honest, it's a bigger match than Roman and Cody. So if The Rock and Roman doesn't happen at Elimination Chamber and it happens at Mania, Roman's going to win. So does that mean we're then going to have Roman keep the title for another year? Now, I always said Roman can keep it forever as far as I'm concerned. I think it's awesome, but I agree with what you're saying. The Bloodline story as it is now does feel a little flat.
It still has its moments.
It's got its moments, it does. But
Roman on TV.
But it's on a dip, and that's not to say they can't bring it back. But it is definitely at a dip at the moment. I saw one theory, which I don't think they'll go down this route, but it was interesting. But there was one theory suggesting that the Fatal 4-Way at the Rumble, Orton wins the title in the Fatal 4-Way, which means that Cody ends up challenging Orton at WrestleMania for the championship and wins it, because Cody, to finish the story, doesn't need to technically beat Roman, and Cody, to finish the story, doesn't need the main event. He's had a main event at WrestleMania now. To finish the story, he just needs to become the champion. So that doesn't matter who he beats. And there's at least still history with Orton. That then leaves the door open for The Rock and Roman to main event WrestleMania, even though it's not, and then it wouldn't be for a championship, and Punk and Rollins is still going to happen regardless. So that was one theory I saw, and it does make sense. But I would argue, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would argue that Roman now is part of the story for Cody. Because it's not just about Cody winning that championship. They made it personal last year by essentially saying that Roman Reigns was the son that Dusty always wanted. And the idea that Cody wants that championship because it's the title, like I said, his dad was never the world champ, not for WWE. He was never the world champion. And he wants that to finish his story. By making that personal, like, you know, he's the real son of Dusty Rhodes, and Roman Reigns is apparently the son that he'd always wanted. And the fact that you've got all of this history built up now with Roman and the bloodline, and Cody Rhodes has been still so heavy involved with that, even on a different show, but with Jay, you know, he's still very much been a part of the bloodline, like storyline stuff. I do feel like it should be Roman. I can't see that happening, but to me, I don't think I'd want that to happen. I think Cody and Randy absolutely should happen, because I think that'd be awesome, but not for Mania. So no. What would we want to sacrifice? Do we want to sacrifice Rock and Roman at Mania and have it at Chamber, for example? Or do we hold off and say we'll have to wait another year for Cody and Roman?
No, I think Cody Roman was written like the moment when Cody lost.
Yeah, I think it was too. But the Rock being there, I think, was a newer thing, and that will change things.
it does, but someone brought it up, like Roman and Cena had a match at No Mercy. Not a big 4 pay-per-view. So why can't Rock and
Roman and Rock? It's different though, man. Like that is different.
Plus, also
that is different.
It feels like because they also are teasing Punk Roman. I don't know if you saw that Paul Heyman stuff on SmackDown.
Yeah, but that's planting seeds. Again, that's something that
could be SummerSlam. That could be SummerSlam, but
yeah, and that's fine. That doesn't need to be WrestleMania by any stretch. But WrestleMania, I don't know. I just feel like Rock and Roman is a WrestleMania match. I'm not going to be annoyed or upset or whatever, but it's like it feels like that's WrestleMania.
I know it's different. I know it's different, but Hogan Rock 2 was No Way Out before Mania, which led to
the first one wasn't.
Led to Vince and Hogan, which worked well, and The Rock versus Stone Cold, which worked well. And I saw before we started this, like I think Roman is like 2 weeks away or somewhere around that from beating Bruno's second title reign.
Depends no one cares about that. Beat,
they want to beat Hogan, but that's like 200 days away.
Which, if they hold off on having Cody's rematch until Mania 41, he'll beat.
But then what do you do before that?
That's it, isn't it? It depends what they want to do with Jay and Jimmy and Solo.
Joe and Jimmy should have
There's still a lot of story.
I mean, I'm not going to be, because obviously Rumble's coming up, and I think it's easy to predict that Cody will win or Punk will win, but
I think what I would want to see Roman do if they do go down the route, if we do Rock and Roman this year and Cody has to wait, then the only way that well, it's not the only way, but what I would like to see is that when Roman does eventually lose, because that'll have to be a part of the story for the next year, where he loses Jimmy and losing Solo, but when he loses them, like I want to see Roman kind of go back to the whole, like, because that's the thing now, we expect the ref bump, we expect the shithousery, there's going to be interference, and it's going to be a dodge finish. Why not subvert the expectations and have Roman just like snap and he literally becomes like unstoppable? Like it's not about like I'm not going to rely on the family anymore, and he just loses his mind and he becomes like literally back to what he was when he first came back in 2020, wrecks everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I think that would be a huge turning point. Like, oh god, like now he was cheating to win, but now he's actually like an animal, and now people literally just cannot beat him, like Lesnar. Because that's what Lesnar, the biggest difference with Lesnar's reigns is that he didn't need to rely on the crap, because he was Brock Lesnar and he would just rip men apart. But if they kind of go down that route there, then it makes it even more of a threat then by the time Cody gets there, because Cody's had to wait 2 years. The biggest problem from a investing stock in Cody Rhodes is that if you give it another year, again, back to the whole what have you done for me lately, if they don't then maintain the interest on Cody for another year, is it going to be the same? Like, do we get to 41? It's like, actually, people aren't really that hot on Cody anymore. We've kind of lost it.
That's the thing. Since he's come back, he's never really lost it. But I think potentially, if he hadn't got injured and kept going after, if he didn't get injured when Money in the Bank happened, I think the crowd might have gone a bit sour because he was winning a lot and all this stuff that's happened. It happens a lot with people that like are on good streaks.
Yeah,
you might lose them eventually. But
I think that's going to be the thing for me. Like, if they don't, then Cody's at risk of. And I've never been like Cody's biggest fan. I really could not stand him in AEW at all. But the WWE runs worked wonders.
Yeah, and
I do think he's the right. He is the right guy to take the title from Roman, undisputedly. But it's just.
With the problem coming up to Rumble, is there's only 2 people that can win it. Realistically,
yeah.
Also, we don't know what the Cody and Nakamura storyline's going. Because it's great having feuds to build up to Rumble or like pay-per-views, but it's like when I was watching 2001 with Raw, they were building up to Booker T and Stone Cold, But they never did a pay-per-view match. I don't think they had a proper blow-off. Maybe a cage match on Raw. But yeah.
We all know that was it was all about the supermarket segment. That one anyway.
I love that segment. But it's like, do you remember when Ronda came back in 2021, and we all thought after she won the Rumble, oh, she's going to face Becky Lynch.
We never got it. We never got it.
We never had that match.
No.
We had,
and that's the thing. Instead of that, we ended up with the triple threat where they put Charlotte Flair in, and I cannot see them.
This is when she came back after that.
No, I know, but like in terms of what we all thought was going to happen, even at the time.
But
it could have just been 1-on-1, but they put Charlotte in. For this, though, I just want to say I don't think triple threat is going to be the way. That it's not going to be Cody versus Rock versus Roman. So,
but I've got a feeling Cody wins and Damien cashes in
the main event.
Yeah. So he finishes the story, but then he's got his next feud because Roman will be off TV for a while after he loses.
I don't know if they dare do that. Would they? Would they? I don't know if. Yeah, but not like that. They haven't.
Also, I like the fact that people just shit on the Money in the Bank cash-ins because it feels like every other week, like Damien will pretend to cash it in, or not pretend, but like tease it in. Yeah, they never do it. But every time that happens, like everyone's like, "Oh, that's really bad storytelling and everything." But no, but when it actually happened, obviously don't do a theory again. But that's just wait until that cash-in actually happens, and if he wins, which I think he should, Damien, because I know this isn't a year in review, but before Backlash, before running bad match, it's like, what's Damien done for so long? And then this match happened with Bad Bunny, and that made him a bigger name.
Great year he's had. Yeah. He's had a really good year. Yeah.
I always like the guy.
100% he deserves it. 100% deserves to have a shot at that title and a run with that title, I should say. It's just he doesn't factor in right now. He doesn't factor in just yet.
I know everyone was upset that he beat LA Knight really in Money in the Bank. But then LA Knight had that match with Roman, which was okay, but it's like we were talking about, it's like the formula's there.
Do you know what would be cool? Is that we're getting really ahead of ourselves now. We'll reel this in, but if Priest kept his briefcase all the way till Money in the Bank next year, or no, this year, sorry, keeps it until Money in the Bank this year, we get a new Money in the Bank. Again, this probably wouldn't work because, again, if you're thinking of it logically, the new Money in the Bank should technically null and void the previous one if it's not been cashed in. But what if, say, LA Knight wins Money in the Bank this year, cashes in on whoever the champ is, wins it, and then immediately Damian Priest comes out and cashes in on him?
Well, why can't
you get like a back-to-back cash in?
Why can't he hold it until Money in the Bank and then defend it? You know how they did the AEW Dynamite ring?
Put it back up on there. I don't know. That seems a bit weird. Mind you, my idea was weird, so yeah, fuck it.
I find it funny that they could do that, because how many times the women, as a woman winner, have it for like an hour or like a day, and then they cash it in?
Yeah.
Way too much. Obviously, EO didn't do this last year. She had it for like a month, maybe a bit longer.
They never really have it long though, the women's, do they? What are you saying then? Are we saying Rock, Roman at Mania, or are we saying Cody and Roman at Mania?
I think Cody Roman works better for Mania. Have Rock
story wise, yeah.
Have Rock Roman in Australia.
I think that I think that is going to be what they have to go with, isn't it? I'd love to have seen Rock and Roman at Mania, but do you know what? It would be too risky, and it is unfair if Rock comes in and takes it from Cody now at this point when Cody's put the work in over the year. Yeah. I think that would be unfair.
If this is leading to something with Rock in the future, where he's does more matches, it's funny how he's doing it now when the strike's over.
Yeah.
Like with Cena. Obviously, we don't know what Cena's going to do for Mania, if anything. Maybe The Rock can be the referee for Jimmy and Jay.
They're not bringing The Rock in for WrestleMania to be a referee.
I know it's not the same, but they did with Austin a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. That is not happening. You're not paying The Rock to be a referee at WrestleMania. No, I mean, they're making lots of money at the minute, WWE, but they're not paying The Rock to be a referee at WrestleMania.
Could this be his Hall of Fame?
It could be.
Because we're still waiting for Batista's one.
It could be. We've got a little ways to go before we find out who's going into the Hall of Fame, but they usually announce that a little bit before.
Triple H is getting involved with Hall of Fame, so everyone like Demolition and Ken Shamrock even might be getting in.
Hey, Ken deserves it.
Hey, The Rock put him in the Impact TNA Hall of Fame, so
there you go. Put him in for this one as well. Well, that was
before Steve Blackman.
That was not before Steve Blackman. Steve Blackman absolutely deserves Hall of Fame. He should win the Royal Rumble, and I think he will win the Royal Rumble. But there you go. I'm ready to wrap that up. That's a big old episode.
Well, the fans deserve this because we've been away for so long.
I know, yeah. You lucky folk. But yeah, that's about all we have to say on, I guess, a mini wrap up for the year and expectations for the new year, some of the current stuff going on, big old rants on AEW. I took up a big portion of that.
Yeah, I think I only spoke for like 20 minutes, so
that's probably, yeah.
It's always worth it not to saying too much.
I know, you get to save your voice. But yeah, no, it's good to be back. It is good to be back.
Yeah.
Well, no, nothing. Well, I left the floor open to you, and you just don't take it. That's your problem.
No, I see what it's got.
What?
Because we've got Rumble predictions to do in the next few weeks. We might be doing. we might do Hard to Kill.
We might do. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that.
We didn't talk about Wrestle Kingdom because I don't think any of us have seen it.
I've only seen clips of it this year. Yeah, I've not had time to actually go out and watch it properly. So,
because we talk about WWE dying, and
why is it you make a comment about speaking for 20 minutes, and then I try and do the wrap up, and all of a sudden you've got something you want to fucking say? That's the problem.
Everyone's like thought New Japan was going to die because Okada might be leaving and all this stuff, but now they're bringing in the former Dolph Ziggler and now Riddle. It's like good times again
with his new gimmick. Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping for a fun 2024 of wrestling, and hopefully less of the bollocks behind the scenes stuff that comes out from it. But folks, why don't you let us know what your expectations are? What do you want to see come out of 2024? You can let us know down in the comments below if you're listening to this on any of the audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, or Google, or any of the others that we're on. Some of them do let you put some comments in, pop them in on there as well. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a 5-star review. Whether we warrant one or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, just do it. Don't give us anything less than 5. Doesn't help. Doesn't help at all, and it's sad. You'll be right now. You'd be the only person to give it less than 5, which I shouldn't have said because I feel like that's an open invitation. Or what was it called this week? What did Edge call it? The Cope. Adam Copeland called it the Cope.
Don't know, but
that anyway. It was that. Yeah,
it was that. Dome, this would be getting 5.5 star.
But guys, hope you genuinely have enjoyed the episode. It is good to be back. We'll be back again probably within a couple of weeks. Yeah, next year. Yeah, a few months. I don't know. We'll be back at some point. You should never know when.
Yeah.
But we'll be back with another episode where we'll talk more shit. And I don't know. We'll just see where it goes. Ash, maybe you could just take the lead next time. We'll see how it goes.
Nah.
All right.
Box for that.
Everybody, wherever you are in the world, hope you are having a great day, and hope you had a happy New Year and a great Christmas and a very happy year to come. We shall see you again very soon. See you later.